Welcome to the Organic Matrix. Today we have a very special guest. We're going to be talking about the power of saying no. Andrea Lucak entered the working world after studying economics. She noticed very quickly how unhappy she and other people around her were in their day-to-day lives. This awareness led her to having the courage to follow her passion of inspiring people to live life to the fullest. Utilizing her knowledge in human behavior, especially what has been triggered from past traumas, Andrea is able to assist people in overcoming overwhelm, fear, shame, and judgment by communicating their needs and wants powerfully. Andrea Lucak deeply wants people to own their life, learn to set healthy boundaries based on their needs. She offers tools to overcome several troubles on the way of letting go of the past, to start living in peace and acceptance and love. She learned how subconscious patterns run human life and how they can be changed for the better so they are more serving to life. She would love to see everyone in their true potential, happy and satisfied. Welcome, Andrea. Welcome to the Organic Matrix.
Yes, well, thank you for inviting me and welcome everybody.
Andrea is an NLP trainer, hypnosis coach, and psychological consultant. Andrea, can you tell us what NLP is and how NLP can improve the quality of our lives?
It's the short statement for Neurolinguistic programming, and we learn here how humans perceive the world, how we can change our state, and how we can program ourselves towards our goals.
That sounds awesome. So how do we program ourselves? How does that work?
Yes, so in Neurolinguistic programming, we have certain formats, and we use them, and then it's just after it's programmed and installed within our subconscious mind, it's just we recall it or fire up the neurons, and we are back in the right state we need.
How can we use NLP to improve our lives?
So by knowing how we perceive the world, and that everyone is perceiving their world and seeing through their eyes and lenses, so we come to the understanding that not everyone sees the world through the same eyes, because not everyone had the same experience in the past, not the same biography, nor are they focusing on the same thing.
In psychology, I know that sometimes they have different therapists for like different cultures or people who grew up in different regions because the culture is different. And is NLP similar to that, or is it more flexible in the way that an American can use the same program as someone in another country? Or would it be?
Because we understand that humans are programmed through cultural aspects, and due to our biography, it's very, on the one side, very individual, but we know that it's for everyone different, so it's built up that everyone can use it.
Oh, so NLP is more custom to the client?
Yes, it is totally.
I love that. Where do you practice?
In Austria here.
How is it like practicing in Austria?
The same as it would be in another country, because it's very simple to learn, although it's very complex and a lot to learn. But it's like a recipe we use when we cook a meal, so we are using it in coaching manner.
What does your day of work look like as an NLP trainer and hypnosis technician?
Yeah, so I pick people up from where they are and lead them to where they want to go. So I'm listening very carefully and repeating if I got them right, and then we get started.
How can we set healthy boundaries in our relationships using NLP techniques?
Be in our power to know what we want and to communicate it clearly, to say no when we mean it, and not saying yes although we mean no, and just to send a clear message, not a mixed one. If my body language and posture and feelings are saying no and my words are saying yes, so we are sending quite a mixed message, which can be quite confusing. So we are speaking clearly. We know our wants, needs, desires, and we are committed to ourselves. we speak out for ourselves when needed. We ask a lot of questions to get it right, so we are good understood and we understand others.
So it sounds like, would you say that you're more of like a therapist, or is it like you're a coach in a sense?
Yes, a coach, because NLP for me is a coaching format.
What are 3 signs somebody may lack boundaries in their relationships?
So if they are people pleasing and if they cannot speak the truth, if they are getting in an overwhelmed state just to make the other person happy.
So a few signs is like overwhelm, and if we catch ourselves people pleasing, I could see how that could be very hard for people not to instinctually do. Coming up, being raised by our parents, like everybody, I feel like is, if you like your parents, programmed to want to please your mentors and leaders, right? So do you see that often and with your clients, like people struggling to not people please because they haven't broke apart from that dynamic with their parents?
Um, that's a big and interesting topic, because being here and in our own power is one thing, but in relationships especially, it's giving and taking game. So we have to find the right priorities and to keep that connection growing. Because if we would build, let's say, some walls or boundaries too high, the connection could not rise. So we want a relationship especially to grow and to know that however we decide, to have in mind that it's a game of giving and taking.
Love that. One time, a friend of mine told me a really good quote, and he said, "You honor the giver by appreciating the gift."
Yes,
I like
saying thank you to it.
Exactly. That was a big lesson to learn for me. This one time I was learning like massage therapy, and I was giving this woman a massage as like an intern, and she wanted to give me a $20 tip. But I said, working on you and you letting me work with you is a gift enough. I don't want to take your money. But she was like, "No, take it. You think I can't afford it?" I'm like, "That's not what I'm trying to say." And then my mentor, the therapist that was teaching me massage, he told me that. He's like, "You appreciate the giver by honoring the gift." And I was like able to understand that a lot of the pleasure we get in lives is when we're being generous, right? Like, I know sometimes when someone does me a favor, I might feel awkward. Like, how do I show you my gratitude? But when I'm being generous, it's very easy to accept gratitude, and it feels really good.
So some things which are important is, like you said, this saying thank you by accepting it, to be in the position to ask when it's needed and to say yes, thank you.
What are 3 signs you have healthy relationships? I mean, healthy boundaries in relationships?
You're in your power. The relationship is growing. You can speak openly. There is an order. Nothing is disturbing, and you feel great, appreciated, supported.
Those are really big things in like how life is right now. Like having support and feeling appreciated. I think that's the core of love. How powerful can the word no be?
So if it's communicated appropriately, it can be very, very powerful. So if the voice, our body language, are in tune, so it can be very, very powerful. Just and even if the voice is not screaming, but just normally saying no, it can be very, very powerful.
Yes. For the people listening, I just want to remind you that saying no is sometimes scary, but it's your right. It's our right to say no if we don't want to be a part of something we don't support, or if we don't want to experience something or be a part of something. It's our right to say no, and it's our power. So if you're in a situation where you want to say no, but you're holding your tongue, I would say let it go. How can we bring more clarity into a situation?
By having a greater look on what really is, which I want to say is how am I feeling in a situation? How am I thinking? How am I acting? How am I behaving? But when communicating to others what was really said, because
Mm.
oftentimes we tend to interpret some things and say, oh, I know that, which could be very dangerous words, because we are not we stop to listen further, and we think we know it, although we haven't heard the whole message. And there are often some not full messages, and to ask questions so we really can understand it clearly.
I don't want to be disrespectful, but I do want to say, like, there's this funny saying that says, "Don't assume, or you make an ass out of you and me." Have you heard that saying before?
No, I haven't heard it.
So it's funny because assume is spelt in the way that's like you can make an ass out of you or me, because it's like URME at the end. And I like that because it's so true. Because it's like when we assume and we interpret things, we can exaggerate it. And I feel like we often do that. And I think it's because life is kind of a routine, and sometimes maybe we want more excitement. So we invite a little bit of drama and we over exaggerate things. And so it's like when we assume that we know where somebody's intention is, we make an ass out of ourselves, because when we get corrected, we're like, oops. And then we make an ass out of the other person because we don't even intend it, but we might be ruining someone else's reputation. And now,
Yes, but where does this come from? So everyone had
mm,
different experiences, is on a different knowledge level. We didn't grow up in the same environment. We're not uh,
mm,
in touch with the same teachers, so our opinions are totally different. So, and what our mind is doing is comparing to situations we have lived out in the past, and therefore it's quite dangerous, because what's true for us must not be true for the other person.
I think that's such a complexing truth about being a human being. Is it's so true. Like in some countries, like looking someone in the eyes while you speak is respectful. In other countries, looking someone in the eyes while you speak is challenging. It's not, is disrespectful. So that's why I love podcasting, because we get to see how life could be from someone else's perspective, all the way from across the world.
And we can learn a lot of from other cultures.
Mhm. I love that. How can we program ourselves to be less critical of ourselves or those around us?
Yes, when we are critical, we compare also to the past,
Mhm.
and to make if the inner critic is one part within ourselves, we have a self-care part, or a stronger part, a more positive part as well. So, and to let the inner voice of this positive part become so huge that the inner critic has no chance against it. And in the experiences, we can recall positive experiences where we did it. If the inner voice is telling us that we can't do that, we can recall past memories where we did it and go into that feeling back again, and then searching for a lot of reference experiences we already had, and to bring in awareness what we have already accomplished. And it's huge if we have a notice of it, because sometimes we just forget about it.
That ties into like what we were talking about with like assuming too. Like we have to strengthen, I love that we have to strengthen the healthy voice, like our higher self. And like there's no way to really defeat the critic, right?
We can.
If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Say thank you for sharing,
Yeah.
and stop it, and direct the thoughts in the proper direction we want them to go.
Yeah, because one thing that I would mistake in my past was I was thinking there would be an absence of the critic. But I realized that it's about like learning how to live with the critic and then not letting it take control of my impulses. Like let it be like, okay, well, you're crying in the corner over there. That's your corner. You can stay there. I'm not crossing that line. But but is that the same as when we're criticizing others? Because another thing I see myself struggling with personally, and I'm sure other people struggle with as well, is sometimes it could be an impulse out of an insecurity that we might look at someone and like criticize them. How can we build healthy habits to avoid giving power to those insecurities and that disharmonious frame of thought?
To know our needs and desires, and to fulfill them for ourselves, to take 100 responsibilities for ourselves. So we don't have to take the responsibility over for other person. It's their job to know what my job is and what another person's job is, and to not mix it up.
I recently had an interview with a coach. His name is Ron Reach, and he said when we experience a situation, it hits our limbic system, and then after a while it goes cerebral. But while it's bouncing around the limbic system, we're like all emotionally like charged, like we're feeling everything. And then when we're cerebral, we could process it. Is it fair to say that while we're learning how to build habits to manage our self-critic, that waves of emotion is completely normal?
So we learn it when it comes, and then we can stop it, and we can react in a proper way, so we are not driven by it anymore.
What do you personally do to get grounded after feeling overwhelmed?
The overwhelm, I believe, for me disappeared when I knew my priorities and I planned the day, and I kept in a continuous way. So the overwhelm disappeared. And in this emotional arena, when we take notice to our emotions, and we deal with them when the time is right, we are not likely to get overwhelmed because we are in control.
So the more we build that self-discipline and control, the less likely we feel like we're tipping over the cup. I like
We
that.
take 100 responsibility for ourselves, and so we see that we are responsible for ourselves and how we feel and how we think, and not for the other person.
I gotta focus on that. Sometimes it's easy to just have an opinion and then cast it out. And then like now you're emotionally connected to somebody else. And that's where it gets difficult. But I like that you mentioned having a schedule, having an intention. And I feel like the more intention we have for our days, the more rewarded we feel. And yeah, like stable too, because I personally have anxiety and I schedule everything. And I like it when it goes according to my schedule because I feel like I got things done.
And hopefully you celebrate all of the points of your schedule when you reach them.
Absolutely. I'm always celebrating, whether it's a cup of coffee or some music. How can we learn how to trust again after trauma?
So I believe by building up the self-confidence within ourselves, so monitoring of how we feel and how we do, and progressing in little steps by expanding the trust back in ourselves, to understand that it was a past situation, to see that there might be some resources we didn't have available at that time, but now we are taking care of ourselves, and we take 100 responsibility, and so step by step we rebuild the confidence back in ourselves. And an important step is to let the past go. It's here that we can learn from it, to act differently in future, but not holding on to something which is not serving us anymore.
Mhm. I think that's an important lesson, to actually let things go. I feel like that's the only way we can really heal, is to be able to look at it and understand it. But I love what you said about that we're more equipped now, because that's absolutely true. Like, no matter what a situation is, after the situation we have knowledge and experience that we didn't have before. And I love that you're encouraging us to make peace and have confidence in the new strength that we develop as we learn and as we overcome these obstacles.
And I believe that each of these obstacles makes us a piece of stronger.
Hmm. Yeah, and wiser, more empathetic for somebody who might be going through something we can relate to and empathize with.
Yeah.
Why is it that self-care is so important in life?
So if we want to be here for others, we have to take care for ourselves, because when we are in our power and self-care, we are more likely to take care of others as well. And we are not serving anyone if we get exhausted, overwhelmed, drained. So we should love and accept and take care of ourselves, because if we are not doing it, who should do that for us?
That's so true. And if we don't do it for ourselves, then, like you said, like, how can we do it for others, right? It's like an infinity sign. It, and like you said earlier with relationships, like, it's a give and take, right?
Yes.
How can we empower ourselves when we feel down during our phases in life?
So it's one way we could do is first to know our social environment and networks, to know the people who are supporting us, and to know the ones who are not supporting us. And in such a phase, to contact more of them who are serving us, supporting us. We can recall past memories where we felt very secure, and to get back into that feeling, and maybe we can see the difference. How was it when I felt secure? How is it when I'm not secure? And then paying attention to the difference and aligning it so we can feel secure. Because mostly it's just a scenario within our mind. There might be situations which could be very dangerous, but then we have since a look in the reality. What do I see now? What can I hear now? What do I feel now? What do I think now? And mostly we find out that we are not in an unsecure place, but we just feel or think that we are.
You know, when you mentioned that, it made me think about times where I'm like cranky because I'm hungry or thirsty. Because I realized that when we get upset, it's really healthy to like pause and reflect and be like, did this person really bother me, or am I already annoyed because I need something that I might not be fulfilling for myself? And I think you mentioned that earlier as well, that it's like when we're faced with these oppositions, we have to pause and reflect and say, are my needs met? What's not being met?
Yes, to stop it.
Yeah.
Because we humans are creatures of habit, and oftentimes we act out of habit, and if we stop, we can have a greater look on it, and then that's where change is possible, because oftentimes we don't even recognize our behavior in going through life.
It makes sense now why they call it an awakening, because I feel like we're like moving around, we're like reacting, and then a light goes off and we're like, wait, what am I doing? Is this who I want to be? Why is it essential to know yourself?
So if we know ourselves, we know how we think, how we feel, how we act, and we are clear about where we are going and what we need in a situation. If we don't know ourselves, we don't even some even don't realize how they are feeling. So when I was going for a walk on the street, and I observed some people, they are so in their mind that they maybe don't even realize that they are not present and upset. And by knowing ourselves, we would recognize it more easily.
So we'll be less victim to circumstances. We'll be able to like guide ourselves the better we know ourselves. Right.
Yes, we will know what we need, what we want. How often we ask a person a question about their needs and their wants, and they are not able to answer it. But if you ask them what they don't want, the list will be huge, right?
Yeah, that's so true. I noticed that it's way harder to figure out what we do want than to figure out what we don't want. Why do you think that is the case?
I'm a strong believer that we were programmed when we were children, and it's the way how we learned to see the world and how to behave.
I think maybe like because there's so many options too, right? Like we have so much technology, so many new things. Like I'm 25, so I'm sure like when because I was the first generation that got cell phones. Like I was the first generation to get a smartphone, and life was so different. I did so many different things for free time. Like I used to read tons of books to escape my reality. Like now I go on Instagram.
But I would say that's evolution. It's growing, and not just we humans are growing, but in nature we also observe a seed which is growing up. It's everything about growth.
Some rapid fire questions for you. Ready?
I'm ready.
What is your favorite childhood memory?
So I love to remember the time I spent with my grandmother. So it was so lovely.
What was it like to be with the times you had with her?
She took me everywhere she went. So I was observing the older generations, how they are thinking and speaking. So there were great lessons in there. So I really love them.
That's lovely. So did you always like observing those around you and learning from their behaviors?
I did it from a very early stage. Um, and at a point I stopped it. Don't know. And then I picked up back that observing because it's teaching us a lot of lessons.
Yeah. If you can go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
So be clear about what you want and follow with passion and courage your way. You don't have to be afraid of anything.
I love that advice. What kind of qualities do you look for in a friend?
So in a friend, I want to trust the other person. I want it to be a warm-hearted connection where giving and taking is balanced, and we support each other.
That sounds like my best friend. I love that. So Andrea, can you tell us a little bit about your program and how you support your clients, and how does your program look like?
Yes, so I'm mostly working in coaching, so it's very individual. I take the person from where they are, or we have a look on the emotions, how we can change the state, how we can decide quicker, and everything which is needed to on resources a person needs to get to where they want to go. So we are working on that very quick and fast. And if we are open enough and we want to change, we know what we want, so change is very quickly possible. So we don't need years to discover that.
I love that. The more we know ourselves, right? The quicker change. Where can our audience find you if they want to work with you?
So if someone wants to work with me, I'm available via email, andrealukac.coaching@gmail.com. And it's just upon you to take the first step and get into action and write an email.
Matrix members, I'll be putting her links and her email in the description below so you won't miss out on anything. Andrea, thank you so much. I enjoyed having you on the show, and hopefully we get to have another conversation soon.
Samantha, I am very honored to being with you and that you have invited me, and look forward to hearing from you soon.
Absolutely.